Hey there, guys. That's Crowbar here. Some of you know me as Josh Turner. Because that's my name. Josh Turner's the, I don't know, that username, the whatever you want to call it. I go by the. So yeah, um, yeah, my secret identity or whatever, this kind of stuff. But tonight I can't sleep. I've been having insomnia issues for the past couple weeks, and sleep's been coming hard for me. When I do sleep, I don't sleep well, and I think it's anxiety. I'm not quite sure, but for whatever reason it is, I'm not sleeping, and I don't know. I just can't sleep. So I figured I'd make a video. Now, I am sorry, guys. I haven't been making much in the ways of videos lately because I can't find my camera. It was right there on my desk, right here in this area, and I can't find it now. I don't know what happened. Probably a sibling took it to take a picture or something, and I just haven't seen it yet. So I've been unable to make normal videos, and this camera is very low quality. I don't want to have to use it if I don't have to, but I mean, it's the middle of the night right now, and my good camera won't even pick up things well with this low amount of light. So, I mean, in my room, all lighting is bad. It's horrible. But anyway, so yeah, I just haven't been able to do that. I've tried to stream some lately, and I keep running into some issues. I'm hoping to put some of my stream stuff up, but like I said, I kept running into issues. So the streams I have done lately are going to have glitches and stuff shown in them. Certain points, stuff gets put down, put up, put down, put up. As far as like I had a ton of issues with Twitch doing maintenance and different things like that. But it's nearly 2 a.m. Here in Arkansas. It's nearly 2 a.m. and I can't sleep. And if I don't talk about something, I'm going to do something which happens when I start getting insomnia really bad, which is I go to an area and I just keep walking and walking and walking and walking until I stop. And I don't know why that's what it kind of turns into, but it does. And I just keep walking. And I don't even stop because I'm tired. I just stop at a certain point. And it's not like, a volitional stop. It's more of my subconscious has decided it's time to stop. So, I figured I'd make a video and talk about something. And I wasn't even sure I was going to do it at first. I was hoping I'd be able to talk to somebody or something, but it seems like anyone who's on doesn't really want to talk right now to me, and everyone else is asleep. So, yeah. And so I thought maybe I'll make a video, maybe I'll stream, I don't know what I'll do, but I kept having this one thought run through my head, and so I decided to act on that. And the thought was, people keep telling me, you need to write a book, man. You need to write a book. You need to write a book. They've been telling it to me for a long time now, and I might actually do it, but before that, this is kind of my my talk, my thing of prepping for that, I guess. So you'll get what this is pretty soon, and hopefully, if you're interested, I'll maybe Whoa, one sec. No. No, I don't have to. Anyway, maybe, if you're interested, I will write a book. With as much detail as I can get into it. So I thought I'd do something kind of, bibliographical, if that's the right word. Bibliographical. I don't even know if that's a real word, but basically a kind of bibliography kind of thing. I've seen those draw your life kind of things. This is kind of like that, except I'm just talking, so I don't have anything to write with, and I'm not good at drawing and stuff. One sec, guys. So yeah. Um, but yeah, I figured I'd say that. Like I said, it's 2 a.m. I I haven't slept since I woke up yesterday, so excuse me for any issues I have here with speaking and anything like that. So I guess here's where we'll start. So to any of you who don't know, my name's Josh Turner, Joshua Turner, J. Adam Turner, whatever you want to call me, Joshua Turner. I was born in 1996, May 31st of 1996, on Coca-Cola Lake Road, Texarkana, Arkansas. So, of course, I don't remember much of my first years there. I was only 2 when we left. When I was 2, we moved to Oregon because I had some family who decided to move there. My Uncle Mickey and Uncle George, along with my Granny Rhodes and my Granddaddy Rhodes. Now, my parents, Russell and Naomi Turner, they're great. But my dad, his parents had split up when he was younger. Really, really young. And he lived with his mom most of the time, and she had got remarried, and so my uncles are his half siblings. And basically, what happened was they kept moving around. My grandmother, and so they kept moving around, and at some point my dad came back here because he didn't want to keep moving, and met my mom, got married, the whole thing. After they got married, they decided to adopt my older brother and sister, Michael and Sierra, and while adopting, well, I started coming into being. Anyway, so yeah, we had it had to be 1998, so we had moved up to Oregon, and gosh, I think it was somewhere near Portland. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while. So I don't remember a lot from there. I remember when I used to go when I was there, and I'd lay down and watch TV shows like Care Bears and stuff with my Uncle Mickey. I remember when we watched all the old Godzillas. And it was awesome, black and white Godzilla with Japanese and the whole old movie. The mouth is still moving, but the words are finished, or the opposite way around, depending on how it was. The really bad voiceovers. So we watched Godzilla and stuff, and remember we watched Jaws. And that's one that we watched and we get told over and over about. So, it doesn't hurt hearing that to help the memory come back up. It's said, you literally have, or literally, my brother hates it when I say literally, but all your memories are supposedly never gotten rid of, really. That everything you see and do is remembered. It's just tucked there away somewhere, so that not everything's processed at once, or like you'd go crazy. But anyway, so yeah, we lived up there. I watched the old Godzilla movies, which I love. That might have been part of what turned me into a sci-fi nerd. We played video games. I can't even remember what all. And I know at least part of the time we lived on a dairy farm. So here's one of the few memories I still have of there, and it was living there on that dairy farm. And while on the dairy farm, what happened was I wanted to eat an orange. I was probably 2, 3 years old. I wanted to eat an orange, and my mom was teaching my older sister, Sierra, who's 2 years older than me. It was either the alphabet or words or something like that. I can't remember exactly what. I remember the letters and everything on the page. And I told my mom that I wanted an orange, and she said she couldn't do it right then. Because, I had no idea how to get into an orange when I was that young. I knew you cut into it and stuff, but that was it. I didn't know you could, peel it off easy with your fingers at all, or there were tricks to, I was 3, so, yeah. So, since my mom wanted it, I was kind of stubborn, and I've been that way my whole life, and decided I'd do things myself. So, I got the orange, and I got a bread knife. I remember at a butcher, but my mom says it was a bread knife, so I trust her. And I took the knife, started cutting the orange. I think I cut it this way. So I had the orange here, and I had the knife this way. All right. And I was cutting, and well, I don't even know if you can see it, but let's see. Nah, you can't really see it with this camera. Wait, there it is, right there. I've got a scar from it. So what happened was I started cutting with the bread knife, and as I was cutting, I went through my finger. And so, fingery bits dangling about. I start crying, and my mom finds I've cut into my finger trying to go after this orange I wanted to eat. And thankfully, because we were on a dairy farm, or next to one, we always we were thankfully able to get into medical stuff, because, they have to have it around for the cows. So, they bandaged up my finger and everything, and it's good today, but that's one of the few memories I have there. Another is feeding the calves. We got to feed the calves all the time, and I remember sliding under one of the pins into the bullpen once. I think I got on it. I can't remember. exactly. But I thought I hopped on one. My brothers tell me that if I had ever hopped on one, it would have bucked me off and killed me. But d I mean, the bulls that people ride at rodeos is what they thought of, and those things they've got a little extra tension down somewhere to make them bucks. So, and then I remember part of moving, and when we were moving, I remember trying to. Well, this was actually probably before moving. Actually, I remember trying to climb a dresser. I was climbing up the dresser. I had no idea how dressers worked, but we had these old dressers, and they had these round, flattish knobs on them to open them up. So I grabbed onto the round knobs, put my feet on the ones below, and just climbed it like a rock climbing wall. And when I got to the top, I think I remember passing out, waking up, and having apple juice or something to that effect on my face from one of my siblings from their sippy cup. Mine, of course, when I was young, we had 4 kids in my family when I was that age. Me, my 2 older siblings, Michael and Sierra. Sierra's the oldest. Michael's 1 year older than me, and then there was Noah, who's 1 year younger than me. And we each got a different color sippy cup. Mine was green. My younger brother Noah's was yellow. I think Sierra and Michael's were blue and red, but I can't remember each respectively. And green has actually been my favorite color since then. Subconscious, you don't know how things work until it actually happens. But yeah, green's my favorite color because of that, I guess. I guess. But so yeah, I climbed that and I fell down. I remember sometime later. I can't remember if this was moving then or a different time we moved, which would have been moving from another house we had here in Texarkana, to this house. But I had a dresser fall on me, and I thought it was going to crush me to death. And I guess with enough weight, it likely could have. But thankfully, no broken bones, nothing happened. I survived fine. And so yeah, so we moved to Texarkana, and when we moved, one of the friends my mom and dad had, his parents, I think, had a house next to this trailer house, and I think they weren't using it. I can't remember exactly how things worked. So we stayed there and we rented it out, and so I got friends with Forrest and Hunter, their kids, and they'd come over and we'd play and stuff. And I remember a pool table we had, and it's funny because most of what I remember with that pool table was not being able to reach anything on it, and then second of all, that is where I'd hide every time any of the other kids were getting a spanking. I couldn't stand to hear people in pain. I never have liked seeing or hearing people in pain. So yeah. And so, we lived there for a while, and come 2000, I believe, we bought this house here, and when we got it, old lady had lived in it, and she was old and stuff, so there was damage in the house. She had been a smoker, so there was smoke damage in the house from the cigarette smoke, and we had to take out all the carpet. I remember cutting out the carpet there, and this was 2000, so 2000 or 2001, so I was helping sweep stuff up, I think, because I didn't actually do the cutting. We'd sweep stuff up, help throw stuff out sometimes, but we didn't actually sweep it up ourselves. I mean, cut it up ourselves. My dad and uncles, I believe, did that. And while we were doing that, and sorry about this being kind of throaty and everything. I'm trying to be quiet, but my voice carries a lot. I don't want to wake people up right now. It's way early. I mean, it's 2:15. So yeah. But yeah. So while we did that, we cleaned up and stuff. I was like 4 or 5. Yeah, and I've lived here pretty much the rest of my life. But that year, we had an ice storm in December. We had just finished moving in, and we had an ice storm come through. And when the ice storm came through, it hit all the power, all of it, in our area. It was out for, I don't know, 2 weeks? I can't remember exactly how long. But it was crazy, and we had family coming over and stuff because we had gas heaters in the house, and we had gas stove, and we had a fireplace that was just a normal everyday old fireplace because this house had been built in the 50s, I think. 50, either the 50s or the 70s, I can't remember exactly. I think it was the 50s. The addition, I think, was added in the 70s. But what happened was, everything went out, so we had people coming over here to stay warm, to cook food, that kind of thing. Now, as far as us kids went, my parents actually got a TV out, and they hooked it up to a car battery and ran TV for us. The only thing I can remember watching was probably Sesame Street and stuff like that, which is all we got for a long time. I mean, that's what we got in the trailer house, I remember, even, and stuff. So yeah. During those years, the first 2 or 3 years I can really remember a whole lot of anything. My years from being 3 to 5 or so, I was schooled in the ways of the games. Everything from Atari 2600 to NES, Super Nintendo, all of it. And in order to my aunts and uncles and stuff, they had those games, so they had the older games, and that's what they had, so that's what I played. And so, we'd play Atari and have tons of fun with Atari. We'd play the original Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt, and we played Zelda and all of that kind of stuff, and we played just whatever they had. And I remember playing Link to the Past all the time. We'd play Link to the Past. Oh, I know the music so well, and love that game. It's one of my favorites of all time. And that was really one of my big introductions to gaming. I remember, though, I was either 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly when. Either 4 or 5 was when I first got my hands really on playing PC games. Diablo, Neverwinter Nights. Yeah. By the time I was 7 or so, I had figured out most of how to make a good character on Neverwinter Nights, even without being able to read everything. Where to go in Diablo and how to find stuff. What stuff was better, even though I couldn't read or anything. I knew A, B, C, D, and whatnot, So I used that to go for decks and everything. I knew D was defense, and I knew this and that here. And you know, it was fun. I loved playing those games, but I really Diablo gave me some nightmares, and I still played it anyway. The Butcher and the Skeleton King. Oh, I remember the nightmares I had from those games. And yeah, the first, and then I remember when we got our first console we had, which my dad had actually won. He didn't even know there was a contest. He bought a Dr. Pepper, all right, and this was back in the days when you could go to Walmart and exchange anything for pretty much cash, even without a receipt, because as long as it was new and unopened, it would be fine. The which is according to Walmart's policy. Their policy still says that, but they don't quite abide by it. Or at least it did last time I checked. But yeah, this was back in those days, of course, and he had bought a Dr. Pepper, and when he drank it, he found a thing on the cap about winning a GameCube. All right. And this becomes a little bit of irony later on, but I'll talk about that later. But he basically won a GameCube, okay? So he looked at the code, saw he won the GameCube or whatever, I don't know, code. I think it just said he won or something. And what happened was he won the GameCube and took it, and he took the GameCube and he basically sold it to Walmart, I think. And so, you know, he exchanged it and he got a PlayStation 1 and the game Might and Magic for the PlayStation 1, and oh, the hours I spent on that game. And he got a Star Wars game. I remember the Star Wars game. It had Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. You could play both of them, and it was just after the release of Episode 1, I believe. Maybe it was before. I can't exactly remember. But we had that game, and we'd play that on the PlayStation, and we'd play Might and Magic, and we'd play all these different great games on the PlayStation. And I loved it. And then the Xbox was announced. Yeah. So the Xbox was announced, and basically what happened was, you know, we were like, whoa, we've got to get this, because we saw Halo, and we saw it was going to be on the Xbox. So when the Xbox came out, we bought it for Halo. And the countless hours I spent in Halo Combat Evolved, the original Halo, and you know, this was before they had networking on the original Xbox. This was before all of that, and we just played 4-player matches, split screen. We call it screen hacking when someone looks at someone else's screen, and so you know, we'd always be saying someone was screen hacking us or whatever when they were winning, and I've used that term since I was 5 years old, you know. So we had a Star Wars game on that one too, and that Star Wars game you got to play as the I can't remember what they're called. The walkers, and you got to play as the droidicars and tons of different stuff, and you got to play all the machines in the Star Wars game, and it was arena style thing, so you know, you had to beat everyone else in it, and or you'd have it where there's waves of different ones that come through, and you've got to take out every wave and see how far you can go, and it was awesome, and I loved it, and it was crazy. Like I said, though, I was, by that point, I was already playing Neverwinter Nights and Diablo, and those were some of my favorite games on the PC. By that point, I had already started playing. I mean, by the time I was 5 years old, I'd already started playing pen and paper D&D. I couldn't read any of it, and so I knew some of the rules by heart, and I think that was 3.0, 3.5. So and I'd go and watch my dad play D&D and stuff, and I knew what the dice were. I knew what the numbers were on the dice, and so my dad would DM for us, and my two brothers, we'd play with my dad and play D&D, and my sister would play too, and we just had so much fun with that. And I guess it was sometime around that time. I can't remember what it was. The year after we moved in, I guess. So around that time, I guess, I think that my sister was born, Mariah. She is my youngest sister, and I love her so much. She may not like me as much as I love her, but that's fine. Beautiful girl. But, yeah. So, she, she was born, and boy, she was annoying as heck at times. Not talking about when she was just a baby, but when she became a toddler. Oh, yeah. But we had. I remember us playing all those games and stuff. And my sister and one thing I forgot to mention. She had not been. She was not. I'd had another sibling before that. See, while we were still in that trailer here, before we moved into this house, my mom had another baby, and his name was Isaac. And he had jaundice. And here come the tears, guys. I'm not gonna keep anything back, really. Like I said, it's 2 a.m. I can't sleep, and I'm emotional right now, and everything's gonna come out. He died at 14 days. At 14 days old, well, yeah. I'm a religious person, so, as far as I go, I say the Lord took him. But, yeah. And before that, because this is kind of important, when they figured out everything, they had took him to Little Rock Children's Hospital to be treated, to try and save him. And me, my younger brother Noah, and him, we were all born from the same midwife. All right, so with the same midwife, my mom, we were born from my mom. We had the same midwife, and to help her deliver. But after him, we had decided that, from then on out, since my mom had that, and my younger brother Noah had jaundice a little when he was born, because it's a thing that the woman carries when gives it to the babies. That they'd all you know, whenever whenever my mom had a baby again, she'd go to the hospital to keep the stuff the safest. So, yeah. And so, I don't think Mariah, my sister, actually had it when she was born, but, so yeah. Um, and, after, after all of that, we moved here, like I said, and, all of that. By the time I was probably 6, which was about the time we had the Xbox, I was also playing a Spider-Man game I played regularly. I probably beat that thing 20 times on the PC. So, like it. Just so y'all guys know, I'm not a stranger to PC gaming. It just didn't do it as much as I do now. I've always been both a console and a PC gamer and a pen and paper guy and big nerd. I watched Star Trek all the time with my dad, mostly The Next Generation, because he loved watching that. So I watched that from like 4 to whenever. And every Sunday morning when we woke up, we'd turn on the country music channel and listen to country music and watch music videos, and those were great times. And there wasn't really a care in the world. And then at one point, my youngest brother, he was born, Benjamin, and it was great. He's an awesome kid. Always really has been. I remember when we had to change his diapers, which was horrible. But, yeah. So, I don't know. That would have to have been... That would have to have been... Let's see, he's 10 now, I guess. So, yeah, that was 2004. Wow. Can't believe it. But, yeah, that was 2004. I remember... So, he was born 2005. The Xbox 360 came out. We bought us an Xbox 360 first thing for Halo 3. Because we had beat... When I was young, we played Halo 1 all the way through. I didn't ever get on Xbox Live with the original Xbox. I know that sounds horrible to some of you, but I didn't. But we never played Xbox Live on the original Xbox, so I never played Halo 2 online, which some people will just gasp at, but... so, yeah, that although I love the multiplayer on Halo 2, and it is awesome, and I really, really love it, I never played it online. I only played it with other people, split screen, or as a LAN party kind of thing, with like my uncles and stuff. And we bought the Xbox 360 for Halo 3, and Halo 3, it took a couple months to come out after the 360 came out, I believe, and so we played some other games. I can't remember exactly what all we got, and I know this was after Halo 3 came out, but alright, so let's go back a bit. I'm mostly just describing gaming stuff here, but going back to when I was 5, we'll go into, I guess, education a little. If this is a proper biography video, I need to talk about that some. So, here's something I want to tell you guys. When I was 5, I believe, maybe 4, I started kindergarten. And I started kindergarten, and the place I went to school was it was a school our church had started. All right, and this school was basically made up of a ton of homeschool kids put together with the teachers being parents and stuff, you know. So that it was that kind of thing. So in a way, it was a giant homeschooler conglomerate. And in between all that, you know, my parents had taught me stuff, and I had learned different things, and we always homeschooled stuff during the summers, and so, you know, and I went to school, and well, I was the fat kid, so I never really made friends properly. I was always the guy that got picked last, the guy that nobody wanted on the team, the nerdy guy, the typical, you know, that guy in the movie that never gets picked for anything, that always. And, you know, some people actually, it was nice because they saw that and were sympathetic of me, and were willing to do stuff with me. Most of them were older than me, actually. Eli Ramsey Kate was one of those guys, and David Kleinschmidt. They're my friends. Uh, Even though they're a lot older than me, they're my friends. And so, you know, I guess that's really the part where friendship stuff for me started being people older than me. People my age never really got me, never understood me really. Um, uh, Always people older than me were the ones I hung out with. When I hung out with anybody, if I hung out with anybody. Um, I was always a little weird. I've always loved singing and stuff, so I always sang all the time and recited stuff, memorized stuff. I was the guy that memorized whatever I was given to memorize and recited it out multiple times and learned everything I could. And I was the weird guy, basically. I was watching animes with my uncles and aunts, and we loved the Vision of Escaflowne. Oh, it was so awesome. And it still is. You should go watch it if you haven't. But so, you know, I watched that, and friends came over. Not really my friends as much as my siblings' friends at that time. And we'd watch Dragon Ball Z with Wesley, and he's my friend, kind. You know, it's one of those. He's my friend, but he's more of my siblings' friends. So, which is true for a lot of my friends, unfortunately. It seems anybody I make is a friend. Just myself, something happens and they gotta leave. Normally it's they leave, and I don't really get to talk to them much anymore. But thus happens with the guy who's in third grade who makes friends with the ninth and 10th graders because they understand my love of Game Boy games from the Game Boy Color era and SNES games. And so, yeah. And, so, yeah. So, yeah, I had a lot of friends who I kind of lost to college and other schools and whatnot. I always, like I said, had friends but more often than not, they were friends of friends, or they weren't into the same stuff I was, and so, all we really did was maybe play a sport here or two, and I mean, yeah, it was fun, but I never really fit in with anyone. I was always the fat kid, I was always that guy, and it didn't really ever change all that much. Um, let's see, I mean, it wasn't until 6th grade, let's see, 3rd grade, I think I was playing Metroid games, which means I had already gotten my GameCube, which is where the irony comes in. Around 2nd grade, I decided I needed a GameCube, and, you know, I didn't even know that that's what my dad had traded in. I bought the Gale of Darkness edition, Pokemon Gale of Darkness edition GameCube, and when I bought it, it did not come with a memory card. I kept that GameCube on for 6 days straight before we got a memory card, so that my game would not go away. It came with the Pokemon Gale of Darkness game, and I played the heck out of that thing. The next few games I got were pretty good, but my favorite by far was Metroid Prime. And Metroid Prime 2 was also wonderfully awesome and wonderful and crazy awesome. And, I loved Echoes so much. And I believe that's the right one, Echoes. And I had one friend who played Metroid, and he was, I don't know, 9th, 10th grade, either, 2nd grade or 3rd grade, and I talked with, that's what I mean, I talked with him. We'd talk about Pokemon or Metroid or different stuff like that, and have fun talking, and we liked similar stuff. I loved Princess Bride, Man of Constant Sorrow. At that point, I hadn't seen any Monty Python's movies yet, but I loved Labyrinth, which I watched all the time because my aunts and uncles would come over and babysit, and so we'd watch what they liked, which was Princess Bride. We'd play what they liked, which was stuff like Mario and Zelda and Halo, and I can't believe how many times we did the flipping the warthog with the plasma grenades on the wheels, trying to or make it just fly straight up or whatever. But yeah, so my I had a lot of the it everywhere from 70s to 90s instilled into me by the time the year 2000 stuff came on. And, so I've got that older gamer mentality in me. I hung out with people who were older than myself. I mean, I got along with people who were older than myself. I was still always that weird kid. And that kind of thing just kind of persisted. I always had some friends who liked the same kind of stuff I did, but like I said, they were still normally friends of my siblings, it felt, more than friends of myself. And I think that kind of persists to today. But so, things went on. I played more games, played more PC. I actually got my own PC at one point, and it was awesome. I had my own PC to play games on and everything, and I loved it. I loved it so much. It was an E-Machines PC, and that was my first PC I had myself. Not the first PC I've ever used, and definitely not the first PC I'd ever taken apart and put back together before my dad got home from work. by that point, my dad was he was already going through nursing school. He had been a painter and wanted to go through nursing school to help support us all, and so great that he was willing to go through all that for us. He really loves us, and so years passed by. I played more games. I never really got out of Halo. Halo 3 was my thing. I'd play other single player games, other multiplayer games, but I really loved Halo 3. And by the time Halo 3 came out, I had made myself a gamer tag so that I could play online with people. And the thing was with the original Halo and stuff, like I said, I'd never been online, but I always went by. I'd originally just went by Joshua, then I was like, no, I want to change it up, so I went by JAT, because those were my initials. And then eventually I'm like, I want something cooler. Jat, that's not good. So I'm like, what's a cool thing? What's something cool? Crowbars, those are cool. My dad was, painter. He helped remodel our house constantly and stuff. So, it was a tool I was regular with and thought was cool. I thought it was really awesome. And so I went with Crowbar. Well, when I made my Xbox Live account, Crowbar was taken. And I'm like, what do I do? Crowbar's taken. And, so I'm trying to figure out what to do since Crowbar was taken, what to choose. And I'm like, alright, I need to add something on here that sounds cool. Let's try some adjectives. None of them worked. Alright, let's try some possessives. So, I start going through some possessive things, and I can't remember how long it took before I found one that worked. Death's Crowbar. And so I took it. And I've had Death's Crowbar since then. I eventually became very active on the Bungie forums. And people got to know me on Halo, but I wasn't really known until, 5th grade. So, that was a few years after it had actually come out, I guess. But I mean, it was still the only Halo around at that point. I mean, it wasn't until my 6th grade year or 7th, I think, that ODST came out. So, it was still a prominent game, very prominent. I'd played some Call of Duty and stuff. I remember liking the original Modern Warfare some, I think. But I could never get into anything without the hip fire. I loved the hip fire of Halo. And I know that's crazy. I know it'll make some people think I'm crazy. But I love Halo. I love not having to down the sights. Just and really, people kept telling me when I played Halo, use this weapon, it's better, use this weapon. I'm like, I'm using my AR. I don't care you have a shotgun, I'm using my AR. And I'm going to kill you with my AR. Everyone's like, AR is the weakest weapon, you shouldn't use the AR, it's bad, it doesn't do as much damage, you gotta unload a full clip. But there was an exception. When I had needlers. I was all for the automatic weapons. So, needlers were the one power weapon I used, really. Along with plasma grenades, if those count. So, needlers and ARs were my friend. And, let's see, somewhere around 5th grade, I kept playing a ton. I got really good at it. Is what I mean. That was also the year I started experimenting more with electronics. So we'd go to Goodwill, and we'd buy radio-controlled devices, and we'd take them apart, rip the guts out, and pull everything off the soldering boards and junk by hand. We'd take the switches and we'd yank them out, and we'd use like electrical tape and wires and make our own little cars and boats and stuff. And it didn't run by remote control, but we had switches to turn stuff on and off, and we'd have a way just to quick tap connect it, and I love that. Electronics were something I really love, and I've always loved, and wanted to understand how everything works in it and stuff. And so by then I was still playing a lot of PC gaming. Of course, all the games were different than the games I played on consoles. I wasn't good into WASD stuff as much. And, I had my issues here and there. Mostly I played Diablo 2 and I can't remember, Titan Quest, something like that. Different stuff like that. And we'd play Age of Empires, Command and Conquer. It wasn't until later years I actually discovered the Warcraft games and played those. But yeah, RTSs were something big we played, and dungeon crawlers and that kind of stuff. And so, we did that. 6th grade, though, that was my year for Halo. And I'll tell you why. So, I can't remember if it was 6th grade. May have been 5th that this happened, but what happened? You know what? I think it was 6th grade. No, this was 5th. This was 5th. So what happened was I had been playing football. I mean, not football. That was the second part. I played a lot of Halo. We did LAN parties and stuff for TV LAN parties for Xboxes. We'd have, as many people as we could get. So, 32. Sometimes we'd have 32 people in one house, all battling it out on Halo. We'd smack talk each other, and it was awesome. I'd meet some new people. Most of them, my uncle knew, because my uncle would do the LAN parties at his house. I'd bring my Xbox over, my copy of Halo, and my controllers. And he lived just a few blocks down, so it was easy to do. And well, one day we had this big inflatable slide, and for something, I can't remember what, but I slid down it. All right. And what happened was, I think it was this hand. It was my right hand. It was my right hand. I slid down it, and as I was sliding, my thumb hit the wall of the thing. Maybe it was this way, but it hit the wall and jammed really bad. And I had to put my thumb in like this brace, and I couldn't move it. So what do you do with a thumb? How do you play Halo without your thumb, I can't move it. I can't write with it. I had to write with my left hand, which was horrible. So eventually I started having to do oral stuff for school. Take all my tests orally and stuff. And so I couldn't play with my right hand. So what do? I'm not going to stop playing Halo. I'm not going to stop video games. So, I just don't use my thumb on the mouse, and I use my two other fingers. I take my index finger off and just kind of do it kind of like that, where these are what I use to click with, which I don't have as much ability in that as I used to. And I kept my thumb off like that, and this finger would be my trigger finger for Halo. I was never a trigger finger person with the bumper and the trigger. I was always one trigger finger, so usually it would be index finger for bumper and trigger, and I'd leave it hung across a little bit so this part hit the bumper, this part hit the trigger. Well, this middle finger started doing that. Let's see, we've got an Xbox One controller here, so, you know, it would be something like this, and I'd hit the buttons. This part would be for B, this part would be for A, and then it would also be for X and Y. And I also was a green thumber at that point, so I bashed with the thumbstick, which made it interesting. I was a no-scoper also, so, you know. And then at some point I was playing some football. This got jammed. So I'm like this, alright? I'm like this, playing Halo and beating people at LAN parties. It was intense. And so yeah, that was pretty awesome. So, you know, I got tons of practice in with my fingers alone. And that was awesome. So 6th grade rolls around. It's an okay grade. It wasn't as good as 5th, because 5th we were allowed to make stuff in class. Things weren't quite as strict. It was really cool. When 6th grade rolls around, stuff's okay, mostly until the second half of the year. Well, school year. So, you know, second semester, I start having some issues. I got this coughing issue somewhere around January-ish, and we thought it was just a regular cough, but it wouldn't go away. And after a week or two of it not going away, we went to the hospital, we checked stuff out. I wasn't allowed in school. I couldn't sleep well. And so I played Halo all day, played Halo all night. Played Halo, 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 played Halo. I played Halo. And eventually I started getting a name at Halo. King of Stick, they called me. The reason is I always took you down with me. I always took you down with me. So I may not be the winner, but I definitely got 24 points on a one-on-one match. You know, it was like, in group matches, it was pretty much okay, because even if they killed me, I usually took 1 or 2 people down with me, if not more. I didn't really die without killing somebody. So, I mean, you know, it's not the best in the world, but it was good enough. You know, I wasn't a complete slaughter monkey. And I never really have been a complete slaughter monkey. Though in some games I am what I'd call a slaughter monkey. Most of mine is distract and allow the other guys to come around the flank. I let myself die. They come around from the back while I'm firing on the enemy. They take me out, but my friends take everyone else out. You know, it works, but that's not really how I played in Halo. Mostly I was a lone wolf kind of guy if I wasn't playing with my uncle online. And so, plasma grenade, plasma grenade, plasma grenade, plasma grenade, spike grenade, spike grenade, plasma grenade, spike grenade, spike grenade, plasma grenade, plasma grenade. Yeah, they say the campaign doesn't really prepare you for online, but I think when all you're doing is tossing plasma grenades into people's faces, it actually worked. At one point I got good enough I could jump over someone, tag them while jumping, they'd run off the other way, I'd keep running. They'd realize they were tagged as soon as they blew up. And at other times, they'd kill me. They run off. They think they're okay. They realize they're tagged from behind. They blow up. I get a kill from the grave. I played all the different game types a lot, and different other stuff. I loved playing on Cinco de Mayo because of its special Cinco de Mayo game type. So yeah. But, I played and I played, and we figured out what was wrong with my cough stuff, and got that figured out with, we actually cleared out my chest and stuff. It was so built up, we didn't even know I had congestion. And we used steam with peppermint oil. So, we'd take a steaming thing of water, add peppermint oil to it, and just breathing that in breaks everything up, clears you out. It's a little painful, but it works. And it's really great for getting rid of congestion. Whether head congestion, breathing it up through your nose, or chest congestion, breathing it down through your mouth, it helps. And after that, I didn't have too many issues. I had a few little issues getting sick here or there. Here and there I had issues. But things were relatively okay. That next year I went to church camp for my first time. Well, not next year, but that summer I went to church camp for my first time. It was awesome. I loved it. And after going to church camp, we got back. It was the 4th of July. The next 2 days after it became the 4th of July, I still had most of my stuff stuck in the vehicle. And we go to the 4th of July party, alright? So we get to this 4th of July party, and I want to tell you, while this had happened, my dad was remodeling my bedroom, which me and all my brothers stayed in. So that's 4 guys in one bedroom, and it was getting remodeled, so we had to stay in other areas of the house. So some of us slept in the den, which is over that way, past this bathroom here, and some of us slept in the living room. And, I slept in their living room, and then I think Benjamin slept with my sisters in their room. Alright, so that happened, and that night, when we got back, we all went to sleep. At around 2 or 3 a.m., I heard yelling. And just in, like, a haze, I pulled everything I can, got everything on I could around me, made sure everything was okay. I had no shirt on. Went outside, was checking why people were running around screaming. I figured out our house was on fire. We were trying to get the water hose into the fire in the bathroom, but it wasn't reaching. And the fire trucks started coming, and at that point we got in our car, and we left and went to my aunt's house, and we stayed there. And I guess that is like one of the first nights I've ever had like that. So I didn't sleep. How could I? We were waiting to figure out what was going to happen. And my dad and my brother Michael stayed here. They weren't in the house, but they were outside with the firefighters, some of them watching. And Scott, who's one of our friends from church, which it's amazing how stuff happens, but yeah, I can talk about that some other time. He was here, and he's a firefighter, and He was just kind of watching and stuff, I think, because he wasn't on duty. And the house, they cleaned, got everything done, took out the fire. Well, about after the fire trucks left, about 5 minutes later, it started burning again. Apparently, there was something smoldering in the walls, and the roof got lit up. And so, it burnt. More fire trucks had to come out with the next shift, and they all came out and tried to put it out, and eventually did. If it weren't for the fact that this house was made in like the 50s and there's 2x6s behind every wall at that point, it wouldn't have made it. The fire was so intense. So everything got smoke damage, and it wasn't until a week after I got to come in, and if you've never seen a TV melted into a puddle before, it's an eye-opening experience. So we started removing the sheetrock and everything that was damaged from the house after a while, and decided we would rebuild. And that was just kind of the first process. I didn't have any of my games. My console was dead. My computer was gone. So I didn't have any of my games. So I was like, I've got to find something to do. So I got another Xbox. I got a copy of Halo 3. Got a wireless network adapter. And got Xbox Live. And I was back to playing Halo. But something had changed me when that happened. And something had changed in me. And I didn't want to just play anymore. I wanted to help people. I realized certain people wanted achievements, certain people wanted this and that, and I wanted to help them. I wanted to help them reach their goal. So I started trying to do that. I started something off at one point called Free Kill Thursday. It was my idea to start off the double XP weekend they had every weekend a little bit earlier. Give a little bit something extra, and I did that until the guys at Bungie told me I had to stop. So I'd help people get achievements and stuff, perfect games. I'd help them get different achievements, different stuff like that. So, and I went to school that next year, and that was 7th grade. Now, 6th grade, I'd made a friend, Paul, and another friend named Corey. And Paul and Corey were awesome. They were funny. Some of them, Paul played video games and Corey played video games. My sister basically told me about them like this. There's these weird kids in class. One of them won't really say much, but hangs out with this other guy, and he plays StarCraft all the time. I'm like, I've got to meet these guys. That was like my first thought. I've got to meet these guys. I got to befriend them. So I make them my friends. We hang out a lot. In 7th grade, when stuff comes up, I hang out with them, And I did so for about 6 months. In between all the schoolwork and everything, I got sick multiple times. Kidney issues, stuff, or at least we thought it was. Nosebleeds, flu-like stuff, tons of different things, and it was pretty bad. But everything was okay to some degree. Every time something felt impossible or felt hard, there was something there to lift the spirits. And we'd actually got a couple computers there. They couldn't play any games, unfortunately, so I didn't have a computer to play games on. But I did play Halo a whole lot. It was really my go-to game. I played Portal 2, not Portal 2, but Portal also, as in 2. And tons of different stuff like that. Some Half-Life 2, which was actually Half-Life 2. And different stuff in the orange box. I loved those games, and just played that. But mostly I returned to Halo, ODST. When it came out, I played Halo 3 a lot on multiplayer after beating campaign on Legendary. The only campaign I haven't beat yet on Legendary is Halo 1. I think about it, I beat all the rest of them on Legendary. But anyway, yeah, I played a lot of Halo 3. Had that Xbox of mine, different stuff like that. And so what happened, we had different songs come out. Chicken Fried came out from the Zac Brown Band during that period of time, and it was awesome, and it helped just keep lighting the mood all the time, and it was so nice. And more stuff happened, and I guess I'm reaching an hour here, but things are going to go quicker from here on out, I guess. Maybe it will probably take another hour, and I'm sorry this is taking so much time, but it's a full thing about my life so far. And more stuff happened, and as you guys probably know, nosebleeds a lot. More and more. They lasted longer and longer until December 12th. We'd been readying for the school program, which was going to happen. I remember some of the songs that we'd memorized, and that was my first year to be in a choir, really, and so it was interesting. We were going to do the Christmas program, and I remember all of that. And practice was that morning, and that was the morning I was going to give my friend back his copy of Metroid Fusion. But it never happened. See, I had a nosebleed. And, I did what I had been doing with nosebleeds, which was I went into the living room of my uncle's, because we were living with my uncle at that time, and his wife and kids, and I went in there, laid down, and tried to get it to stop. I'd just lay down with my head up, trying to get it to drain down as it let it stop, so that it didn't come out. It went down. After about 2 hours, I was like, I went up, told my parents, woke them up a little bit, told them I was having a nosebleed and it hadn't stopped yet. They're like, just lay down, wait for it to stop. After another 2 hours, I told them. And that's when things started getting suspicious. This was probably 4 a.m. or so. And stuff was getting bad. It was about that time I started throwing up. And the blood just kept coming up. And coming up. And coming up. And after it was done, I had one thing going through my head. Carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more. That was all that went through my head, over and over and over. Like a skipping record. The beginning of Carry On My Wayward Son. It was by that time I'd already seen all the Monty Python stuff, Just for as far as nerdiness stuff goes, I was big into Star Trek. I, nerdiness grew and grew with time. I played D&D more, all of that, but really what I'm going into is what gets me to where I am today. So after throwing up, my parents really got up. My uncle had been up because my uncle and my dad worked night shift at the hospital. They were nurses, or maybe my uncle worked different shifts. I can't remember exactly. But more often than not, he was awake at night. When I was awake at night with the nosebleeds. And so after throwing up, he noticed the amount of blood. We got my parents up. It still wasn't stopping. At one point, I got in the shower, cleaned myself off from the blood. I started seeing spots and going, loop kind of thing, and we decided it was time to make it to the emergency room. Thankfully, because both my dad and my uncle were nurses, we got into a room fairly quickly, but it still took about 2 more hours before or maybe 3 before they stopped the bleeding. They then put me in a room, and I don't know, it was about 11 o'clock by the time I got into a room. And I could hear the whispers, and I could feel the tension. And I knew what was happening. And I didn't want to mention it, because I knew what was happening. And so we went, we had to leave and go to Children's Hospital in Arkansas, Little Rock. Like I said, it was important to some degree because this was going to come up later, because the last time my parents were there was when my youngest brother, well, not youngest, but he had been youngest, my younger brother had died, Isaac, and so it was really rough on my mom, seeing me in the state I was in. So we made it to the emergency room. Alright. And the bleeding had stopped, thankfully. It was still hadn't come back. I'd slept the entire way up to Little Rock, because I hadn't slept a single wink since before that, and we made it up through everything and into the emergency room and got looked at and had different people looking at different stuff and asking me if I knew different stuff, and I'd mention this or that, like, I know you're looking at my eyes because you can see my brain behind it, and they were like, how did you know that? And, well, I learned it off TV. And at one point the doctor comes in, Dr. Benson, is that right? Becton, Dr. Becton. Don't know where I got Benson. Benson's a friend, sorry. Dr. Becton came in. I don't know where my head is right now, but then again, it's 3 a.m. and I haven't been getting much sleep lately. Dr. Becton came in and started talking to me, started looking at stuff. And he told me the next day I was getting a spinal tap, because they needed to check some stuff. Alright, so he asked me if I knew what it was, and I was like, yeah, it's when you take a big needle, stick it right between my spinal column, and it hurts a whole lot, and you draw fluid out. And he's like, yeah, where'd you learn that? And I was like, on House. I watched House, so I learned that. And so, yeah, I stayed the night, and the next day I got my spinal tap. And the next night, the doctor came in the room. And it didn't hit me one bit. It didn't even faze me, because I already knew. It hit my parents hard, though. Cancer. It's what I had. It's why I had been so sick that through all that. And when we were rebuilding my house, I'd been weak. I was sick a lot. People thought I was faking it at times because I just thinking I just didn't want to do it, but I really had felt bad, and they figured out at that point were kind of sorry that they thought I'd been faking it. But yeah, cancer. It's nothing you ever want your child to have. It's nothing you ever want anyone to have. And so it was, the 13th or so of December, and I stayed up there for about a week, and I had to get surgery and have a Metaport put in. I was told I couldn't take showers or take baths. It was at that point I had to learn how to pee into a one of those urinal things they have at the hospital to measure your urine output, which was interesting because I was just used to being in toilets and never going anywhere else, so, it took some getting used to. And then, so yeah. And after that week, we went home, and we got to stay home for Christmas, thankfully. And one of the people in our church bought all the Christmas presents for us with their money, because they knew we couldn't really afford anything. I'm so thankful for that. And while I had been up there in the hospital, my grandfather had brought me he got me a laptop. Alright, and 17-inch big laptop for me to use while I was up there. And I used the heck out of that laptop. It only lasted me about a year due to my siblings, but it was a great laptop. And I loved playing on it. I got some headphones and headsets and different things while I was using it, and I still played Halo a lot, and different stuff happened. I met the governor's wife. I met so many people who came in and just said hi and made it a better day at times. And through all that, I had people who would come up and play Halo with me. We had Halo 2 there all the time, or Halo 3, and sometimes the nurses would let me unlock stuff so that I could play online with people. It was great. And I played World of Warcraft. It was my first time to really play an MMO. And I played World of Warcraft with my uncle on the server he played on, called Nomergon, or Nomerhagen, or however you say it. I've had it argued many different ways to me. And my friend, Paul, also got on that. And he started playing it with me. He started playing Halo online with me so that we could keep up, because he was my best friend. And seasons change and stuff changes. By the time the end of the first year of stuff was done, I was really too weak to do a lot of things. I remember trying to run once, and I fell down, cut my knee open, and it was just bleeding for crazy amounts. So yeah, I couldn't really run anywhere, do much. For a while I was in a wheelchair. We were still building the house, so at times I just have to sit there and watch while everyone else did stuff. And that was kind of hard at times. And times when we were home, we'd go to like Lowe's or something to get something, and I'd always get in one of the wheelchairs or power wheelchairs, and one of my siblings would go with me, and we'd go out to the garden center, and I'd get to see trees and stuff. Because I was either in the house most of the time or in the hospital. And for a while I had to take insulin. Thankfully my body adjusted, and that was because of medicines I was on. There were months at a time I slept and all I did was sleep. There were months at a time different stuff happened. I remember my first time on morphine, I slept for a week. I thought it was a day. Then I got a Papa John's personal pizza ordered up to my room. Ate a slice, threw up, and then ate the rest of it. I played Halo a ton, had fun. I did so much different stuff. I met someone there who I played with a lot and talked to, and because there was like this room that every night you could go up on there on the weekdays, and they'd have games and Halo. I mean, not Halo. I mean, they'd have like Xbox and Wii and stuff, and you could play games like Rock Band, and we'd play Rock Band, or we'd play card games, or we'd watch a movie, or whatever, and it helped so much. And I wish I remembered her name, but chemo actually causes your memory to go. And I remember Zach Brown's really second big song came out that year. And that song, what is that? I can't remember what it's called now. I don't know why I can't remember. Whatever it is, that's the one. Whatever it is. And I love that song, and Craig Morgan's music. He had more stuff coming out, and I had watched him before I got cancer. He had come here and done a concert, and I loved his music. And I listened to Josh Turner, who's a country singer who I'd loved, and watched his new video, Everything Is Fine, which just made stuff feel so much better whenever I watched that and listened to the song. And stuff went by, and I really had a lot of help and a lot of encouragement, and I really looked up to a friend. Zach Ramsey. He'd made it through one of the rarest forms of cancer. He'd been the first person to ever make it, and the treatment is now based off what he made it through, how he was treated. So for those first 2 or 3 years, he was who I looked up to for everything, as far as that goes. And I still played a lot of Halo, played a lot of World of Warcraft. I mean, what are you to do? I can't read a book because chemo caused my memory to go too badly. One year I went up and visited my uncle up in Washington. They'd moved to Washington by that point. And then, saw different people. People came and went. Did different things. Played different games. We lived in a trailer house for a while. Rebuilt the house by 2010 here. So, it took 2 years, but we were back. And I'd got my own Xbox at one point. And so I'd take that. We had 2 Xboxes. And I'd take one up to the hospital with me and leave one at the house. And it was awesome. And I loved it. And it was such a great thing. And I'd bring my laptop up. We'd play Halo. We'd play WoW. I got to voice chat with people. I got to talk with them on the phone. I remember when I first told people I had it. But, stuff happens, and stuff was rough, but I made it through it, and so can you. It, um, I made it through it, and, around, I, I kept wanting, Make-A-Wish stuff, alright, and I wasn't sure what. At one point I wanted to go meet Josh Turner. He was my favorite country singer. Got the same name. I wanted to go meet him in person. And my parents said, choose something different. We'll make sure you get to go see him at a concert. Maybe meet him. So we tried to get meet and greet passes. We couldn't. We went to a concert in Oklahoma, though, and we saw the line for the meet and greet. And it turns out the guys at the very back were from the company that does the meet and greet stuff and works all that out. And when I talked to them and told them what I went through, they helped me get backstage to see him. And I got to meet him, and it was awesome. And it was so wonderful. And I got spotlighted later in the middle of the concert. They spotlighted me and stuff, and it was crazy. And so yeah, and that was really, really fun. And then that next year or so, my friend got cancer again, Zach, and Dory. I mean, not Dory. Dory's his wife, but she had a hard time with it. That's for sure. And Dixie from church, she got cancer, and she was like a grandmother to me. Okay, she was like a grandmother or mother to everyone there. And then a friend's mother, she got cancer. And first Dixie, my friend's mother, and then when I did my Make-A-Wish to go on a cruise to Mexico with my family, Disney cruise, because I knew we'd never get to do that ever any other way. That's the day my friend Zach died, and it was tough. It was really tough. And because even though it was great and I got to do all this stuff, that was still in my head and on my heart. And it's still sad for me to talk about it. And so yeah. And yeah. And in 2012 I was April, I was cured. I was considered cured. I took my last treatment. Everything went well. But by that point, I was homeschooling. Purely homeschooling. I wasn't doing homeschooling and the private school stuff anymore, which was basically, like I said, a bunch of homeschoolers put together with parents and stuff for teachers. And so, purely homeschooled. I played a lot of games. At that point, I could actually read again, so I read most of the Wheel of Time books. It was awesome. That is an awesome series. I recommend you read it. I still played Halo a lot. I played some Reach, but I still went back to Halo 3. It was the best. It is the best. best first-person shooter with multiplayer, I think. Most balanced, best. And, so yeah. And so, I was cured, pronounced it and everything, and at one point, people were just, my siblings just told me we're gonna be doing something at Pizza Inn tonight, alright? With the school, and you've got to come. And I'm like, okay, alright, what if I can't make it on time? And they're like, no, you've got to come. We need you for this thing. You got to come. And so I go up there to the local Pizza Inn, which is just a little while down that way, down north. And, yeah, down north. Oxymoron. And, so, went there, and I show up, and all the people I knew from school were there, and it was great, and, you know, we celebrated. We celebrated. And it was about that time I started blogging. Video game blogging, mostly. Entertainment, video games, different stuff like that. And I got into Nintendo stuff again, old Nintendo stuff. NES, SNES, Atari, all of that kind of stuff. And learned how to fix Nintendos. And I found an Atari 400 at the local Goodwill. Alright? We went to Goodwill a lot to buy books and stuff. I'd always look for books and look in the electronics to see if they had like an NES or something to fix. And so, what I did was I found this 400, okay? This nice Atari 400. It had one game in it. I realized the controller ports were regular Atari things, and I had already gotten a 2600 from my uncle, which I fixed. And I had combat for the 2600. And so I was like, these are the same controller ports. I also had a Sega Genesis controller, which used the same controller ports. And so, you know, I brought it home. There was no power supply, though. So I had to figure out a way to get a power supply. And so it was all figuring it all out. So I go to the Atari Age forums. And trust me, they have everything about Atari from the beginning to the end. Up, down, front, middle, and back. Except for the Atari 400 and 800 series. And this is where things got interesting. They knew the wattage. I looked everywhere on the internet. The wattage, voltage, amperage, all of that. They knew that. But that was it. That's all. Nobody knew. And now I'm going to say that because everything was laid out with the connector size, everything you needed to know to make your own stuff, to fix it, to stuff on these forums, except for the Atari 400. And so I went in to my room where I kept power supplies. I had a box of power supplies from things that were just old power supplies, from stuff that we didn't have anymore, didn't work. And started plugging stuff in, trying to find the right one. And I'm like, I don't have any. And so we go and look for a good power supply. And we found one that had the right amount of juice on it, but it didn't have the right cable. And the right connector cable. So I keep looking for stuff, keep trying to find the right one. We get a couple that have the right stuff, but it's not the right end, it's not the right size. And eventually I found one in my box that was actually for something, I don't know what, but it used a charger cable for a car charger cable. So, you know, obviously something that's a little bit mobile. And I plugged it in, and it worked. Like, it didn't turn on, but, like, you know, it worked is the size. So I like snip the wires. Like I said, I'd already had some electrical knowledge by then. Snip the wires. Went in. I'd already got myself a soldering set because I needed that for working on the NES stuff I wanted. And so had this soldering cable, soldering iron and solder and everything. Had some electrical tape, and I cannibalized stuff. Made myself a power supply out of a couple different power supplies. And through that, there was a little sticker down on the edge of the connector. And so I looked up what that sticker had on it, and I Googled it and figured out what it was. And so I went through all the stuff about it and figured out what size it was, what it was exactly as a connector. And that led me to being the first person since Atari released the 400 to ever 400-800 computer system to ever fully document it online, the power supply unit of it. So yeah, that may not get me anything anywhere, but I think it's awesome because I'm a nerd. And I was fixing that. I was fixing other Ataris, and NESs, and SNESs, and seeing Genesises, and buying PlayStation, and an original PlayStation again because I wanted one. Because we didn't have one anymore from the fire, and we didn't have a GameCube, but we did have a Wii, which the Wii is what I used to play Metroid Prime 3 on. I love the Metroid Prime series. I wish I got the I can't remember what anniversary or whatever it was collection, the full collection of it, because that thing goes for a lot now, and I just really would like to have them all. I don't have a Wii anymore, but still, I have friends that would lend me their Wii to play it. But anyway, and I just kept blogging and having fun with that, and that just it really worked for me. And so we just kept working on with that stuff, and wow, we're reaching 2 hours here, but anyway, yeah, I just kept blogging, and I blogged for eight months, and I was also on forums for the Neverwinter game, and I was there since pretty much the beginning, but nothing was really picking up, and there was really no news, and eventually stuff started picking up, people came in. I decided to make a guild. Set up my guild stuff, waited, Perfect World acquired Cryptic, waited, renewed guild stuff, waited, news started coming out, and I started blogging with that. I had a guild stuff set up. Someone named Andre the Giant on the forum said he wanted to do a podcast for the show, for all of it. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I want to talk about guilds and the game and everything and how it correlates with D&D, and I had the 4.0 books, and it was based off 4.0, and nobody had played 4.0 with me ever because they thought it was stupid, but I had the books, so I knew stuff about it, and so I used it as references too, and we'd do role-playing, and on the forums, my character walks into this tavern and blah 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 and looks at this person, and then that person will put in their section of what happens and with everybody, and the next person will put in theirs, and it was really cool. And I really loved those days on the forums. And so the guy that's doing the podcast, it was called the Neverwinter Online Crossroads Show by Andre the Giant and the Knox for short. He first did one where he interviewed the moderators for the forums, and he did two of the moderators because one of them didn't want to come on, named Zebular, I believe, and so he had Ambi Sinister and I Am Truthseeker, also known as just Truthseeker. And actually, I think I've seen him around the internet lately because he keeps disappearing every time everyone I see who's called Truth Seeker keeps disappearing when they see me. It's like, bye. Like, oh, it's that guy. Gotta leave. Don't want him to know what happened to me. He kind of disappeared at one point, so I think that's what happened. He disappeared, can't be seen by anybody who knew him, kind of thing. But yeah, so the guy wants to do the next one. He does want to do the guild thing, and he confirms that I'll be in the guild episode. But at that point, his guild and my guild were one of the only really two guilds that were out there for a while, and then some other ones were cropping up and gaining some headway. And this was before the game was out, before it was even in alpha or beta state, but we were already building guilds. And so people were looking for devs to interview. And me, being my normal self, having already talked with indie people on Kickstarter and stuff, with PR from my blog I was doing and different things, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this. And I was like, I messaged Craig from Cryptic, and I was like, hey dude, we really want you to come on this podcast. Send someone down from the dev department to come down on this podcast. If you could do that, that'd be great. We'd really love to do it and talk about the game. And so he's like, sure, I'll send somebody down. A couple weeks pass, nobody comes, and then another dev comes in finally, and we're like, whoa, we've got a dev now. His name was Cryptic Mapolis, and Cryptic at the beginning showed us he was dev, and so I asked him a question, and I'm like, hey dude, Craig told me he was going to send someone down here to answer some of our questions and be on this podcast. Is that you? Or is that why you're here? Kind of thing. And he messages me back, no, but I'd love to be on it if you're interested. And so I'm like, cool, I'm going to talk to the guy and we'll get you on it. And then from there, the Squez, Andy Velasquez, joined us. And I asked the guy who was doing the podcast, hey, can I be on this episode? I want to help interview him. And he and I were really the only people who knew what was going on there. And we'd never really talked before other than on the forums. And he's just like, all right, sure, And so I was the co-host of that. And we talked a little beforehand on Skype and stuff, and it was cool. And so he was mainly hosting it. I did some co-hosting, and we got this interview in. And Cryptic Mapolis, who was Mike Apollos from Cryptic Studios, and he was the lead environment artist, and pretty much heading the Foundry stuff in the game. So we asked him questions for pretty much an hour together. It was about 45 minutes before Andy joined, and Andy didn't have a ton of time. He never did, but with anybody. But we got probably 30 minutes out of him, which is more than anyone else ever got. And we got probably 30 minutes also out of, in a way, I got us 30 minutes almost out of Craig. Because what happened was, Andy's like, I gotta go. Dude, I gotta go. And I'm like, wait, one last question. Because someone had already said one last question, but I was like, what is your favorite thing you've worked on in Neverwinter? And he gave me his answer. And then out of nowhere, we hear, that's a stupid answer. And we just laugh. I thought it was Mapolis. All right. And then we hear, hey, this is Craig. and we don't even realize what's going on. He's like, this is Craig. Hey, yeah, this is my thing, and then we get to talk to him and interview him. He wasn't even set up to interview us. He was trying to close down everything for the day and get Andy to leave, close the office, and we got like 30 minutes with him, and then a little bit more with Andy, and then like 20 more minutes with Mapolis, and we had like a full 2-hour thing, which was longer than anyone had ever got together, and like all our interviews at that point had been bigger than like MMORPG or anything. .com had gotten, and it was just crazy, and we were like this little startup podcast and got that, and it was crazy, and this was my first time to really talk with devs a lot like that and interview them. And so that happened. And then I was on the next one, which was a podcast about the guilds. And then after that, stuff really died down until the game came out, and we didn't really do a podcast since then. I played the game a lot, though. I played beta. I had got a founder's pack, so I played beta and closed beta, open beta. And come open beta, a website I had been on before that had gotten closed down had opened back up, and I'm like, hey guys, anybody who's here, you should come join me in this game. And they're like, okay, we'll try this out. I get some people, I had a raid call open for people to play on, talk with me on, and one guy, Russ, was, he was talking with me and doing stuff with me, and we played together and talked and everything. And then, he bought the site. And he's like, hey dude, do you want to come on as a writer? And I'm like, alright, sure. So I start doing a little article on Neverwinter, then I do a review, then I do more articles, more reviews, more articles, more news, more articles, more reviews. And after about my third or fourth article, actually, I did a Kickstarter, because I'd been used to talking to people about Kickstarters, doing Kickstarter stuff, doing all that. And so I did a Kickstarter thing, which is what I was used to. And after that Kickstarter thing, basically what happened was I was assigned as head of PR. I started managing the community a little already, just off the scene. I wasn't considered manager or moderator or anything yet, but I mean, I'd been one for stuff before, and so I'm like, hey, I wouldn't mind helping, and he's like, dude, we don't really have enough people to worry about that, and blah blah blah, and you just tell me what needs to be done and I'll help get it done. And so I was kind of a behind the scenes guy, and I was an ideas guy. I helped get a lot of ideas out there that really helped and really worked. And so I was writing for the site and writing and making reviews, and that went on for a good while, and it still is going on. And somewhere in there I started making a new YouTube channel. And I started up that YouTube channel because basically my old one used an old username, and it had some stuff on it I didn't really want connected as much. Not because it's bad, but because it's not high quality, and some of it was stupid and that kind of thing. So I started a new YouTube channel, and that was back when, you had to have a new account for a YouTube channel, so got myself a new account, new email address for the YouTube channel, and stuff like that. Sorry, my nose is like slightly running from all the waterworks earlier. And so yeah. But I started this new YouTube channel, put up a starter video about it, about what I'd talk about. Some of the more political things that I couldn't talk about on the site, I'd talk about on that. Sometimes I'd make a video that would go with the news from the site, or like once there was a Kickstarter that came to us and approached us, and they were like, we want you to talk about this and review this game before it comes out. Here's a beta copy if you want to do that. And I'm like, sure, I'll do it. It was like a Metroid-esque game, so I loved it and gave it a really high review because it worked well. It was beautiful. Or made in Unity, indie game. I loved it, and I made a gameplay video. Actually, more of a gameplay review for it. I mean, not review trailer, gameplay trailer for it, and that's still up on my channel here. Death, my youtube.com/user/deathcrowbar. It's their fan trailer for Dark Matter, the game. You can go see that if you want. It's like my most viewed video. Um, but yeah, I made that, and just kept working with the Kickstarters, kept working with indie devs, making some YouTube stuff on the side. We'd make podcasts and stuff, and I use this camera for all of my older stuff. And up until I got my new camera, and I started recording gameplay a little, and I do that more now. Started trying to stream some, and I do that more now. With my PC and with internet good, it's very easy to do that kind of stuff now. But yeah, so stuff went well. That started in about April, May of last year. So this is about a year. This is like my anniversary video, guys, from when I started in the website, and I started getting review copies of games a little here and there, and it was awesome, and it still is, and I write for the site. And then I went to PAX this year. I mean, it's just amazing, but at the beginning of this year, so I did leave out a lot of death. I mean, like in 2005, my great-grandfather died, who I'd known pretty much all my life. In 2008, which was 7th grade, after the house fire and before I got cancer, my great-grandmother died, who I'd known pretty much all my life. And, well, just this last year, my great uncle took a turn for the worst on December 24th, Christmas Eve, and well, heart attack. And although we made it for up until the 30th, he didn't make it. And so that was rough on me. My grandmother came down and visited us, and I had played the game I got for Christmas, which was Link Between Worlds, and did a review for that. Alright, I wrote up the review middle of the night because I had no other good time to do it, and put it up, and people are like, wow, this is a great review. This is really great. Your articles right now are really, really good. And I'm like, not really. In my head, I'm like, okay, alright. And people are like behind the scenes talking about how good it is, and I'm like, it's not really that great. In my head, I'm like, I'm not good at all of this, but I love doing it. I really love doing it. It's kind of part of my passion. Gaming and writing about it and talking about it with people is part of my passion. And, podcasting and making videos and stuff have now become part of my everyday life. And so, I just love doing it. And people were like, this is great. You're doing well. This is IGN quality. And I'm like, really? Yeah. And people were like, I thought a guy from Polygon would have written this kind of thing. And so I do some more reviews and wrote some more stuff. Went to PAX this year, which was amazing. But before PAX, I slowed down a little on the site. There hasn't been enough coming out really lately for me to warrant writing tons of stuff. If I don't feel good about a news article or something, I don't like to write as much filler stuff as IGN or Polygon will write. Uh, Filler isn't my thing completely. I'll write filler here and there, but I really enjoy writing about the big stuff. So I covered E3 from my house actually, and cover different stuff. And I'll write about big games and what's happening with them and them coming out, and I'll write about indie games, but I'm not the guy who writes, well, this movie based off this game, based off this book, might be coming out, or, talking about what happened on this TV show and how it showed the NES on it, or whatever it is, I covered Oculus and different stuff like that, but I try not to put out. And sorry for the stutter-ish, but that's more of my head being ahead of my tongue, or vice versa. And depending on the time, I tried to put out as much good stuff that people would actually want to see, actually want to read, not as much filler that's just there to meet a quota or something, or just pull in this amount of views per day. Because I love doing all this, but like people said, they didn't want me burning out on it, and I didn't want to write about stuff that I didn't feel passionate about, that I didn't feel like I'd actually want someone to. If I didn't feel someone should want to play this, like if I don't want to play this, if I think it's stupid, if I don't think it's good at all, if I don't think people would want to hear this, I wasn't going to really bring it up. And people would ask, like, why do you talk about Xbox so much, or why do you talk about PC so much? And I'm like, it's because it's what I've got. I don't have a PS3, I don't have a PS4, I never have had anything beyond the PlayStation 1, and it's not because of preference as much as it is money. I mean, I like the PS4 games, I like the PS4, I like the PS3 games and the PS3, it's just I don't have the money to buy all of it. And I got a Xbox One, and I've reviewed some of the games on that, and different stuff like that. And Assassin's Creed 4, I almost reviewed. I didn't get down to doing that. Someone else did the review for that one, while I reviewed. Let's see, what was it? The one I reviewed. What, 2 games? I can't even think of the name right now. It wasn't Assassin's Creed 4. Dead Rising 3. Dead Rising 3. And I reviewed Fable Anniversary, which was for that 360, and some other things. Some stuff I get very philosophical on, so excuse my philosophicalness, and you can skip the introductions to some of those if you want to go look at my stuff. But I'll probably leave a link below to all my writing. And but yeah. And by the time I was starting to write the Fable review, that was February. It's April now. No, it's May this morning. It is May this morning. And that was February. Early February that I started talking about it, so, and Melanie Mack, who I had followed on YouTube, Facebook, and stuff, I'd watched her for a long time, but just kind of lurked in the shadow. Just watched her streams. It wasn't really until she did her big Tomb Raider Anniversary Edition stream that I really started chatting on stuff. I had done stuff before, chatting on the stream, and got on the TeamSpeak or Ventrilo server. Ventrilo is, I think, what they had before, but I wasn't big on talking with people, and even though I watched her videos a lot, even though I was a fan, I didn't really put myself out there. But now I'd been more used to things and talking with people, and even though I didn't know them much, and talking to bigger people in the industry and different stuff like that. So I was like, hey guys, hi, and blah blah blah, and whatnot, and those first couple days were pretty fun. I'd talk with people, and I'm like, hey, hey, this I'd start helping the mods, and one of the mods, Morphe, he started doing the table flip emoticon, and I like put it back emoticon, and someone would start saying stuff, and I'd be like, keep it clean, guys, and just kind of helping out here and there. And so eventually, the other fans were like, guys, how do we make Death's Crowbar a mod? And I'm like, I don't really know. Melanie picks them, so maybe try telling her you want me to be a mod. And so after a few people tell her, she makes me a moderator. And the next night, she had computer issues. I got to talk with her. And that was cool. And we talked about packs and games and stuff. And fixing her computer. Mostly fixing her computer. But, in between that, I talked about games and stuff some. Halo 3, my gaming history, and her games she played before that I played, and talked about stuff like that, and it was fun. It was really awesome. And, talked, like I said, we talked about PAX, and I figured out we're both going to PAX, and I'm like, oh, cool, we need to meet up and say hi sometime, and we got to meet up at PAX, and I met Kylie Asakura, who I also follow, who I had started following pretty early on with her stuff, or Asakura, Asakura is how it's, Kylie Asakura, and I started following her stuff pretty early on, and she was cool, and I met her at PAX once. I met Melanie a couple times, saw her a couple times at PAX, and had a really fun time at PAX. If you haven't seen any of my stuff, go look at it on Facebook and on YouTube and all of that, and Twitter. I've talked about stuff. And since then, I've just been chilling, helping moderate, and different stuff like that. I'm waiting on certain things. I can't talk about all of it. I'm not sleeping, and it's been, what, 2.5 hours probably since I started talking to you guys, but it's been nice. So yeah, so that's been me pretty much so far. And you may be wondering, what's been going on, because I didn't really mention any friendships since then. So what happened is, my friend Paul, who we call Sour Cream now, mostly because it's his username, he's kind of, I don't know, faded into darkness. I don't get to talk with him much. He doesn't come into town anymore, so I don't get to meet up with him face to face, and only talk with him on Xbox. And he's got a weird schedule, and which is basically he's only up whenever he's up, and he's sleeping when he's sleeping. So I don't necessarily get to talk to him. And so basically the one friend I really confided in a lot, I don't have anymore. And like I said, most of my friends I don't really have as a big my friend kind of thing, as much as it is these are my siblings' friends, and my siblings aren't really big friends either, as much it is hi, okay, go to your room, Josh, we don't need to talk about anything you're going to talk about, because you've only got technology and video games and stuff to talk about, because you're home all day with technology and video games. And I'm like, well, there's no other way for me to talk about anything. I mean, like, if if I'm home alone all the time, which I am, with technology, video games, TVs, and movies, I'm like, it's what I'm going to have. And they're like, why don't you talk about it? I don't have people to talk to normally, so thankfully lately I've been talking with more of the mods on Melanie's stream, and that's been fun. I met Shogi at PAX, and got to talk with some of the people, some different people, and had some real fun, but I don't really see people a lot. I don't have no more friends, really. I'm still kind of that social outcast to some degree. And so, yeah, I'm a very awkward person also, and, you know, sometimes I just want someone to talk to, like tonight, which is why I made this video. And it's going to be about 2.5 hours long, but I'm sorry for that, guys, but thank you for watching. So yeah, here's where I am today. I'm writing still, and I'm making videos, and I'm doing Twitch, and I want to make this my job, because one thing I didn't tell you is the disease I currently have. I'm free of cancer, but with cancer leaving me after all the steroids I had and everything, I've got psoriasis, and I've got psoriatic arthritis. And although the insurance pays for it, I have to take Humira, which is about $30,000 worth of money a year. So if I were to somehow not be on the insurance my parents have, I couldn't pay for it. And it's already getting worse again. Usually the medicine does a nice job of getting rid of most of it, but really stuff's getting worse. My body adjusts to stuff very easily. And so it's kind of, I think, adjusting to the medicine. It's an immunosuppressant, so, you know, if I get cuts or bruises or anything, it can be pretty bad for me. And like I may have said, I've got arthritis from it. And although it hasn't extended as much to my fingers and hands, my knees and hips and arms are pretty bad. I'm in pain a lot of the time. But I truck through it. I make it through it, and I don't know what I'm going to do as far as jobs and stuff. I really love doing this, and if you guys are willing to help me, if you're willing to talk with me, talk about me, help share everything, I might be able to have a real job in this industry, have a real career in it. If you guys can help me reach what I need to actually make money doing this and things, I mean, that's not really my goal in all of this, but, you know, if you can, it will make me so much happier, because I'll get to do what I love, and I'll get to do it without as much aches and pains. I'm not in YouTube for the money. I started it to help others and to talk to others about things. If you notice the videos I have that I try and make every single week, which I haven't been able to do since my cameras, I can't find it right just now, are my cancer videos, and those are ones I plan to never monetize, because they're about me having had cancer, and I don't have anything really monetized right now. I'm not making any money. I don't monetize anything yet, because well, first of all, I don't need to. Second of all, I'm not going to make anything really. But I'm going to be starting to go to college soon, and maybe get a job. But like I said, my joints are bad, so I can't do anything really physical and laborious. And although typing and playing with a controller is easy enough, holding something like in a position for one amount of time, like a pencil or something, gets painful. And things like that. So, or like just repetitive motions of opening or doing certain things, it's painful. And so yeah, I want to try and see if I can't do this as a full-time thing. I know that most people who are going to say, you don't need to be in this for the money. It's not a surefire way, and I know that. I know that. my idea wasn't to become a big YouTube person, but more of a writer, which I hope to be able to do at some point. But if I could do anything in the industry right as a writer or a YouTuber or whatever, gaming is my passion. If you didn't get that from how many times I mentioned video games, gaming is my passion. And like I said, I've been playing video games since I was about 3 years old. Since as long as I could figure out how to use the joystick and hit the button, I've been gaming. Since as long as I could mess with an arcade machine, I've been gaming. And yes, I have played arcade machines, old arcade machines, and they're glorious. Galaga is so fun. But I'm a gamer at heart, and I'd love to do this. You know, I'd rather be able to do what I love every day, and even if I don't make much doing it, just be able to live doing what I love, than I would working a 9 to 5 and just hating every minute of it, or not liking it. So that's what's going on with me, and if you can help, guys, please share this, please like, please comment, please subscribe. Like I said, I was just making this because I'm awake, but we're edging on the 2:30 mark, and anyone who's continued with me, I thank you very, very much. It's not often I do something this long. But anyway, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. And to anyone who helps, thank you. I more want to get this channel off the ground, not for money or anything, but for people to see the videos I make that are about cancer, because I want to help encourage people. Like I said, those aren't even the ones I'm gonna monetize if I do. So but those are the ones I want people to see the most. I want people to know what it's like to have some knowledge of things, to be encouraged by stuff, and that's really what I'm trying to drive right now. But you know, sometimes you got to take 2 or 3 things together to try and I'm trying to get fans from the gaming industry and then pull them in and kind of get them to watch the other videos from that, and get them to have the advice, and then have everything get shared out, and have people maybe come for the gaming and stay for the other. So thank you guys for all of this. Thank you for staying so long. Like I said, please like, comment, favorite, share, and subscribe. Even if you didn't like this video, please dislike it, because anything gives me a little more traffic, that gets me a little bit more rating. It helps. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. And I'll give you my little thing, my little blurb for the ending, because people seem to like it. So, to all you nerds out there, to all you gamers, and to all you geeks, keep doing what you do. Along with that, stay awesome. Remember, you can fight the good fight. You can make it through stuff. I'm making it through stuff. I've made it through things. Multiple things. My life is one fraught with tragedy, but I still work through it. So you can make it through yours. Anyway, guys, this is Joshua Turner, aka Death's Crowbar, signing out. And thank you.